Welcome back to I Read Amazing Tales and Chapter 2 of Flash Gordon Fails Again. When we last left Flash, he was in a sleazy diner on the planet Mongo, and his long-suffering girlfriend, Dale, had finally walked out on him, having had enough of his philandering, drug-addicted, drinking to excess ways. And so we begin Chapter 2. I barely had time to look down at my empty coffee cup and mutter, "Now what?" to myself when I hear a voice over my shoulder, a deep, gravelly voice that tells me whatever he's selling, I don't want. Flash Gordon. Never heard of him, I say without turning around. I hardly expected him to apologize and say, "Sorry, my mistake, I'll be off then." But I certainly didn't expect what happened next. Two grabs grabbed either side of me. Apparently, Gravelly Voice had brought a partner, and I was thrown backwards across the table behind me, scattering the other patrons. This was impressive because I'm not a small guy, and despite my dissolute lifestyle, I'm still pretty solid. What can I say? Good genes. So now I find myself staring up into the face of Gravelly Voice's ugly mug, and the freaking giant pistol Gravelly Voice has pointed at me. And I mean freaking giant, like he was going to go out and hunt elephants later or something. At any rate, he had my attention. Look, punk, I got no time for smartasses, especially celebrity superhero smartasses. And Nero here, he has even less patience for the likes of you. Isn't that right, Nero? Looking past the giant gun in my face, I noticed Nero is substantially larger than Gravelly Voice, and Gravelly Voice was no pygmy. Nero had a square head set atop a couple of shoulders that looked wide enough to rest a car on. If he had a neck, I couldn't see it. His arms were seriously as big as a couple of good-sized tree trunks, and his hands were each easily large enough to envelop my entire head and probably crush it should he get the urge to do so. And I had a feeling Nero was getting the urge to do so. Apparently Gravelly Voice was the big speaker for the two of them, since Nero simply grunted at his partner's interrogative. See, Nero doesn't like you either. And brother, you don't ever want to be on his bad side. I guess we got off to a bad start. Flash Gordon, at your service. Do you want an autograph? Something to show the folks back at the office you've met the great man himself? Is that it? Fella, you just don't listen. Nero! Nero, I guess, didn't do much in life other than smash people and or things, because all Gravelly Voice had to do was say Nero, and old Nero started smashing. Luckily, in anticipation of the hulking great fist headed for my head, Gravelly Voice relaxed his grip on my shoulder and moved out of the way. It was enough. Enough to allow me to slip Nero's sledgehammer hand, which instead hit the table and splintered it. I mean, he didn't just split it. The damn thing disintegrated. Well, better that than my head. I rolled to the ground and was up and headed for the door before you could say, "Hey, isn't that Flash Gordon?" Again, for a man of my size and a lifestyle that didn't include a lot of Pilates, I'm surprisingly nimble. It was certainly surprising enough for my would-be assailants, who gave me precious moments to make my escape as they pondered why I wasn't lying in a pool of bloody gore at their feet. Gravelly Voice got it together sooner, or at least I assumed it was him, since he was the one with the gun. I made it to the door when the window next to it, along with the sign proclaiming "We now serve tribbles," exploded in a spray of plastine, electric wiring, and argon gas. I was out the door and skidded left, avoiding Gravelly Voice's next shot, which instead took out a couple of hover bikes parked outside the cafe, sending chrome and adorable handlebar-mounted figurines everywhere. I kept running, tearing down the street, all the while on the lookout for a safe place to duck into, any place, since I figured Gravelly Voice didn't care who he took out with that cannon of his as long as one of the victims included yours truly. I needed to get off the streets pronto. While fleeing in terror and trying to keep a lookout for a suitable hidey hole, I did something I rarely do, failed to notice an attractive woman crossing my path. She was your typical Mongolian beauty, long lithe arms and legs, and a slinky nothing to show them off. As I crashed into her, I noticed that although she wasn't wearing a bra, her breasts were naturally quite perky. If I hadn't been so distracted with trying to remain a fully assembled and functioning human being, I might have had the forethought to grab or squeeze something as we went tumbling to the ground. At first she was shocked, angry, and your basic haughty Mongolian about to upbraid the alien oaf who practically had her rolling around in the filthy streets, ruining her latest silk shift that had probably cost Daddy more than I made in a year. Then she recognized me and my undeniably charming roguish grin, and suddenly became very demure. "Why, aren't you Flash Gordon? Why, Yes, I am. And you'd be doing a great service to me and to your planet and possibly the galaxy if you happen to have a vehicle handy, say something within a 30-second walk from here. Normally I'd lay on the charm a bit, but when it comes right down to it, charm plays second fiddle to self-preservation as far as I'm concerned, no matter how perky her breasts might be. This is my car right here, she pointed to the sleek two-seater silver hover car parked by the curb next to her. I didn't even want to know how much that little beauty had cost Daddy. Who cared? The important thing was, she already had her keys out and it clicked off the alarm system. And just in time, I clocked Gravely Voice out of the corner of my eye about a block down the street. So for the second time in less than a minute, my little lithe Mongoan beauty was down on the ground. The 60 caliber high energy projectile meant for me instead sailed over our heads and into the building the next cross street up, taking an precious chunk out of it and spraying yet more debris into the streets of Mongo City. I wasn't trying to save her or anything like that. I just needed to get down and she was in the way. That, plus I needed her keys. Although my haughty Mongolian fashion princess thought she'd just been saved from certain death by the great Flash Gordon himself, and had that wanton yet submissive look about her that told me she'd really like to show me how appreciative she was. I'd seen it before, more than a few times if I do say so myself, but as I said, self-preservation first, lust fulfillment second. So I rolled off her, did my man of action sliding across the hood of the car thing, and into the driver's seat, ducking just in time as Gravely Voice's next shot took out the front windshield and carried right through, taking out the rear windshield and the windshield of the car behind us. I threw the car into gear and peeled out, except I didn't. Damn, that monster Nero grabbed the side of the car. Where the hell had he come from? Well, no time to think about that. I needed to get out of there. I turned to jump out the passenger door and found a block by Miss Fashionista. Yes, I was leaving without her self-preservation, blah, blah, blah. It turned out she was quicker on her feet than I thought. Those little stilettos she had on would have allowed. Good thing, too, as it turned out. Nero had just ripped off the driver's side door and was prepared to haul me out and finish the pulverizing he had attempted back at the cafe. But little Miss Fashion Plate had pulled out some sort of personal pepper spray canister from her purse and given Nero a faceful. He pulled back screaming, and this time the sleek little silver hovercar did move, and fast. I slid out into traffic, accelerating much faster than I had anticipated. Gravely Voice loosed off another shot at us, but he missed by a wide margin and took out the front window of a shop across the street. No wonder he needed such a big gun. He was a lousy shot. There were sirens in the distance now, so I was reasonably sure there would be no hot pursuit from my two assailants, as the Mongo militia, the planet doesn't have a real civilian police force, while not known for their competency, certainly had a reputation for simple brutality. They wouldn't hesitate for a second to take down those two goons on sight with all the firepower they could muster, which was considerable. I managed to slow down the sleek silver sled and pulled into a side street as a couple of the Mongo militia vans blew by us. Coasting along, not really sure what to do next, I realized my good fortune in not leaving my little savior behind. For, besides saving my life, I figured I now probably had a good place to crash for a few hours and try and figure out, from a long list of candidates, just who it was might be trying to kill me. Well, that was fun, I said, playing the nonchalant superhero in the face of danger card. Who were those guys? Why did they want to kill you, Flash? I pulled over so I could give her the attention she deserved, and also I could flash my smile at her to full effect. Oh, just a couple more on the long list of rogues trying to do away with old Flashy. What can I say? Goes with the territory. I realize that sounded a little schmaltzy. Definitely not my best material. But understand, I'd just been shot at and nearly pounded to death by a guy who resembled a walking building. So yeah, not quite my regular charming self right then. Just the same, I figured the adrenaline rush in the face of danger and my celebrity, however faded, would be enough for at least a couple of healthy romps before I had to turn my mind to more serious business. I certainly owe you one. Oh, it was my pleasure. As she said it, she slid closer to me, and I was anticipating caressing those alluring little breasts when things took a turn for the worse, especially since you need to come with me. And don't try anything, Flash. This thing has a hair trigger. Suddenly something hard and pointed was stuck in my gut. I pulled back. It was a gun. Nothing like Gravely Voice's, but a handy little blaster just the same. The question was not why she was suddenly pointing a gun at me, but where the hell had she hidden the thing? I mean, when I say her dress left little to the imagination, I in no way exaggerate. Where the hell did that thing come from? She no longer had that wanton sex kitten look about her. Now it was a hard, cold look, but with a slight bemused smile. which came over her at my remark. Of all the questions to ask right now. That's true. I clearly have other things to be concerned about, but still, where could you possibly have... Never mind where I hid my gun. Just get driving, will you? We're expected somewhere. Okay, let's get back to square one here for a second. Didn't I just randomly run into you? No, you didn't. I walked into you to get your attention, you big oaf, when I saw those two morons back there had beaten me to you and were doing a lousy job of trying to kill you. So you saved me so you could kill me. Not quite, but get moving. We have an appointment, and he hates to be kept waiting. Wait, an appointment? With who exactly? Get moving, old Flashy, or I will just kill you and save myself all the headache. And my God, what lines you use. Women really fall for that? A cheesy smile and that goes with the territory crap? I decided not to answer, instead put the car in gear and counted myself lucky. At least she wasn't trying to kill me at the moment. Suddenly I found myself missing Dale. Chapter 3. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. It's a tired expression, and unfortunately was also exactly where I found myself. My only consolation being, she didn't seem to want to kill me. I still didn't know the little minx's name, at least not right then. Since we're going to be spending some time together, might as well get your name, especially since you already know mine. Everybody knows you. Well, thank you. I guess I have had my share of fame and glory. Oh, be quiet. I didn't mean it like that. And you don't need to know my name. We won't be spending that much time together. Just the same. Oh, for God's sakes. Fine, it's Mindy. Mindy? Sorry, it just didn't sound like the name of a trained assassin. Right, which is why I don't like going around telling people my name. Well, Min, don't do that. What? Shorten my name like we're old acquaintances or something. And by the way, even if we are, no one calls me Min. So, Mindy, might I inquire where or to whom we are heading? No, you may not, and we'll be there soon enough. All right, never mind that one then. What about Huey and Louie back there? What was that? Why were they trying to kill you, Flash? Was that play acting, or do you really have no idea why they were so desperate to kill me? I have no idea. I guess it just goes with the territory. She said it with such a devilish little smirk it was hard not to tell if she was telling the truth or not. One thing was clear, though. I wasn't going to be getting any answers from her. So that was that. Mindy, it turned out, was far from being a spoiled, vacuous, rich little princess. She was all business, steely-eyed, cold, and I didn't doubt ruthless, if it came to that. I decided the best thing to do was bide my time and just drive. She said it wasn't far, but that's relative. We drove to the outskirts of sprawling Mongo City, to a dreary industrial area that I didn't look like the looks of one bit. It was the type of place you took someone when you wanted to either A, torture them, or B, kill them, or C, both. I started to panic a little bit, although I was careful not to show it. Is the great Flash Gordon breaking into a cold sweat? So much for reputations. I guess I wasn't hiding it as well as I thought. Hardly. Just a little stuffy in here. Not all of us go around practically naked. Not, I should note, that I'm complaining when it comes to you. Sure. She wasn't buying it for a moment, and the bitch of it was, now that I couldn't have her, I wanted her more than ever. So, besides having to worry about my impending death, I also had to deal with sexual frustration to boot. Not for the last time, I thought. Why had I let Dale talk me into getting up? I could have been back at the flat in a warm bed nursing a hangover. Instead, I was God knows where, still suffering from a lingering hangover, but now in addition to my insides were tied knots in anticipation of what lay in store for me. Plus, to make matters worse, the sexy little thing next to me in the nearly invisible silk shift saw me as nothing more than an out-of-shape, over-the-hill, blowhard coward with an outsized yet fragile ego. In other words, she had me pegged. She had me pull up to a large cinder-block warehouse that looked exactly like every other cinder-block warehouse on the long, windswept, deserted street we had arrived at. She warned me again not to try anything as we got out, and I wasn't about to. If I ran for it, I'd probably go 5 steps before she blasted me. I definitely believed her when she said she had a hair trigger, and if I tried to make a move on her, I'd end up with a gaping hole where my chest used to be. So I had to wait and hope that whoever didn't want me dead yet would continue to not want me dead. We made our way up the predictable dark, narrow staircase, me taking the lead unwillingly at the end of a gun. We came out into a loft-like expanse overlooking the rest of the warehouse that appeared to be filled with rows and rows of crates piled high that disappeared into the gloom, so I couldn't judge just how big a building it was we were in, other than say it was huge. The loft space, however, was not as bleak as the rest of the building. Done up in early disco, there was chrome lights, glass tables, and shag upholstery everywhere. The carpet, the chairs, the couch, all in bright, clashing shades of orange, red, blue, and yellow. Hideous, but comfortable at least. Sitting in a large blue shag easy chair was a sleazy-looking little fellow with slick-back black hair, dark, beady little eyes, yet dressed in a tasteful white linen suit, completely out of keeping with the surroundings. He was flanked by a couple of towering ogres in dark suits, an obvious effort to intimidate me with his muscle. Well, job accomplished. "Ah, the great Flash Gordon, how kind of you to come all the way out here to my little humble office." He greeted me in his whiny, unctuous tone, as if this was some sort of social call and I didn't have a gun pointed at my back. And, as I noted, his office was anything but humble. I felt like I was in a Las Vegas lounge that had stopped updating the decor sometime in the 80s. But I was hardly going to debate the point, so I made myself comfortable on the couch, where Mindy joined me, a steady hand still holding that little blaster on me. "Oh, Min, must you? I guess is hardly going to make a run for it, are you, Mr. Gordon?" Call me Flash, and no, I don't see any reason to go trotting off just right now. Comfortable hideaway you've got here." Well, he just about had paroxysms of joy at my invitation to refer to me on a first-name basis, and my compliments on his choice of decorator. Although I wasn't surprised, I've always noticed how insecure most megalomaniac evil types were, whether they were rulers of a vast empire or run-of-the-mill of gangsters like the one in front of me. They all had a weakness for casual friendliness and insincere flattery. "It makes me very happy to hear you talk so, Mr. Flash." "No, just Flash. And you are?" "Oh, how rude of me. Moto, Mr. Moto, but my friends call me Jacob." "Nice to meet you, Jacob, but why all the skullduggery? If you wanted to meet me, you could have just asked." This was apparently cause for great mirth, and he broke out laughing what can only be described as a truly startling chortle. "Oh, ho, 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 ha, ha, ho, ho, Flash. No, Mr. Moto thinks you would not be quite so chummy, shall we say. Yes, chummy, if a polite invitation had been extended." I was wondering where he was going to start referring to himself in the third person. It goes with the delusions of grandeur and fragile ego. "But you are here now. We can all be friends, yes? Mr. Moto would like to be your friend, Flash." I didn't look, but I could practically feel Mindy rolling her eyes. "No, Min, don't be like that. We are friends now." "I thought you hated being called Min," I whispered to her, to which I was greeted with more eye rolls. Despite all the "let's be friends" rhetoric, I've had enough experience to know that when you're dragged out to the middle of nowhere at gunpoint, it's rarely, if ever, to make new friends. "So now that we're all friends," "Yes, Min, you too." Apparently, Mindy's eye rolling had the frequency of a 14-year-old girl on a family car trip. "Mr. Moto would like to ask his new friend for a favor." Here we go, I thought. Would the great Flash Gordon be willing to do a small favor for his new friend? Considering the circumstances under which I had been brought there, and the fact that there were two giant goons staring at me in a decidedly unfriendly-like manner, I was of course more than happy to agree to whatever favor was asked of me at that point. I just needed a smile and nod long enough to get me out the door, back to Dale. She had the keys to our spaceship, due to my propensity to mix narcotics and spaceflight, and then hopefully off this godforsaken planet, never to return. "It's a small favor, a trifle really, especially for the great Flash Gordon." The way he kept referring to me as great made me think he thought I was anything but. "Well, don't keep me in suspense, Jake. What needs doing?" An innocent enough question, but the two goons started towards me, and even Mindy forgot her eye rolling for a moment and actually flinched. No, be still, my friends. It's okay. An honest mistake. No need for violence." Well, this was unsettling. What the hell had I done that had just about ended the life of the great Flash Gordon in a pimped-out warehouse somewhere on the outskirts of Mongo City? "Oh, ho, ho, ah, Mr. Flash, your bon ami is, shall we say, endearing? Yes? Charming in its way, but please, take note, Mr. Moto is never referred to as Jake. That is the moniker of a common criminal, which of course, Mr. Moto is anything but, you understand." Duly noted. The goon stepped back, but clearly looked disappointed at the lost opportunity to thrash me within an inch of my life. "My compatriots are very protective of me, so please excuse their sudden aggression. But let me assure you, we are still friends, yes." Of course, sure, and I believed it even less than the first time I said it. So, now to business. The favor I require of you, assuming you still wish to assist Mr. Moto. Of course, it would be my pleasure. Oh, 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 ha, ha, wonderful, simply wonderful. Apparently my acquiescence had pleased him no end. Then he turns to his minions and addresses them like they were a couple little school chums, not giant, steely-eyed, brutal killers. Slight assumption on my part, but no doubt correct. You see how pleasant Mr. Flash is, so willing to pitch in, lend a hand, without even asking what the task might be. So refreshing. Then he turns back to me, a big Cheshire cat grin on his face. So refreshing indeed, Mr. Flash. And so, here is what I ask of you. And please, remember, Mr. Moto can be very generous to his friends. Very generous indeed. With that said, it would please Mr. Moto immensely if you could kill Ming the Merciless. You're freaking nuts! I couldn't help it. Went against all my instincts, blurting out the unvarnished truth like that, especially to a certifiable psychopath. But the idea was so outlandish, the words were out of my mouth before I could stop myself. The goons started towards me again, this time grinning with relish that certainly this time they were going to get to beat me almost to death, or perhaps there would be no almost about it. But I managed to recover in a hurry. Whoa, hold on there. What I meant to say was, you're freaking nuts, is what I would say to anyone else who made that proposal. To Mr. Moto, please call me Jacob. To you, Jacob, I say I will certainly give it my best shot, although I may ask why you wish Ming the Merciless dead. The goons, again to their everlasting disappointment, were ushered back to their positions on either side of Mr. Moto. Although he was no longer grinning, so I thought, Flashy old boy, step very carefully if you ever want to see a beautiful young wanton female naked again. Ming has grown soft. He no longer rules with iron fist as he once did. Mr. Moto feels he must act before less savory characters do. You understand, Mr. Moto only has the best interests of Mongo at heart. Well, I understood he saw weakness in Ming and thought it was the right time to make a power play before someone else thought of it. The ambitious little hoodlum. I clearly underestimated him. And he was right. Ming had grown soft, and actually was never really quite as merciless as he made himself out to be, at least as far as I was concerned. Still, Ming did live in a palace surrounded by his personal bodyguard, a phalanx of the most vicious, battle-hardened soldiers in the galaxy. Even if it was possible to get past them and kill Ming, you still had to get back out of his palace, fighting through the household guard, and then, if you somehow managed to survive that and got back to your ship, once you launched, you'd have to maneuver successfully through the palace's formidable air defenses. And you still wouldn't be in the clear, because if by some miracle you saw yourself clear of all that, there was still a good chance a squadron or two of fighters would be launched to pursue you and blast you out of the sky. In short, no matter how weak Ming might appear as a ruler, he was still a very well defended one, and any attempt to assassinate him was tantamount to suicide. Plus, not that I'm the sentimental type, but as I said, I'd come to consider old Ming a friend, something I didn't have too many of in this galaxy. Lots of admirers, fans, groupies, sure, but friends, no. All in all, of all the horrible things I was dreading Mr. Moto could ask me to do as a favor, killing Ming was about the worst possible scenario. And Mr. Flash, you will do more than give it your best shot, as you say. When Mr. Moto asks for a favor, he expects his favors to be rendered. So you will forgive the intrusion, but I must insist Mindy accompany you wherever you go until this business has been satisfactorily completed. Well, so much for agreeing to everything, getting out the door, and making my escape.